Crafty G here. I'm going to show you how to do this lovely box stitch crochet pattern. And instead of working corner to corner, usually you do one box and then you do two boxes and then three boxes and so forth. This goes back and forth. So I'm using this Lion Brands medium weight yarn. And this is, I believe, a size K hook. Nope, size J. You can do this pattern on any yarn size, any hook size. As long as you start it out the same, then it will work out the same. And please forgive the noise or any distractions because I am outside of my greenhouse and I live in a really busy city. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. First, you got to create your slip knot. How I do that is I wrap it around my finger twice, pull the string in the back over the front, and then grab the string in the back again and pull it over the front, but over my entire finger, and then just pull it. And that is how I create my slip knot. Okay, to start out, see, there's a noisy plane. To start out, to do the foundation row, we have to chain multiples of 4 plus 1. So I'm going to do the plus 1 first. There's my 1. And now you just do 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, however many you want to make it as long as you want. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. That's a pretty good length here to show you guys how this works. Okay, now to do the next row, or the first row, I chain 2. Some people do 3, but I chain 2 because I believe that 2 is less gappy. What I mean by that is this one is done with 2. So you can see these holes right here. They're a little tighter. They're hard to see. But if it was 3, it would be like stretched out and open like that. It would be really gappy and you would see big gaping holes in it. So I don't like that, so I do 2. Okay, so here's our 1, 2, and this was our last set of 4. So you go back 3, 1, 2, you can see them, and 3. You would do a slip stitch in that. So you pull through, and then pull through again. Now in this same slip stitch spot, you have to do 3 double crochets. So wrap, go into that same spot, pull through 1, wrap, pull through 2, wrap, pull through 2. That's our first one. Two. That's 2 double crochets. We need 1 more in that same spot. Okay, so this is our first little box stitch, shell stitch, brick stitch, whatever you want to call it, whatever the pattern you're doing, they call it different things. Okay, so next you need to count over 4 because we're doing multiples of 4. So you have to go from this one right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you need to slip stitch into that 4th spot. Now you chain up 2, 1, 2, and then you do your 3 double crochets in that same spot that you did your slip stitch. Pull through, wrap, pull through 2, wrap, pull through 2. That's our first. Go back in that same spot, do another double crochet. That is our second one. And our third in the same spot again. Wrap, pull through 2, wrap, pull through 2. Now that's our second shell. You can start to see it coming along pretty good here. Again, you skip 4. Remember, this little one right here, because this is stretched out and tight, this is your next stitch you're supposed to count. It's just because you're stretching it out to put the double crochets in there. So don't forget to count that one or your count will be off at the end. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Straighten this out a little bit here. Let's do this again. 1, 2, 3, 4. You would slip stitch. That one seems a little bit tight. Oh, don't wrap, you gotta slip stitch. Okay, now you chain up 2, 1, 2, and in that same slip stitch space, you just repeat what you've already done. 3 double crochets in this chain or this slip stitch space. So wrap, pull through, wrap, pull through 2, wrap, pull through 2. That's our first. That's our second. That's our third. Again, don't forget this little one right here. Count over 4 so you guys can see it well. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you slip stitch into the 4th one. Chain up 2, 1, 2. Then you do 3 double crochets in that same slip stitch space. That's 1. 2. 3. Now this is our last one. And remember in the beginning how we chained 1? In the end, it actually counts as the 4th chain. It's kind of weird how that works out, but it does. So if you see here, there's 1, 2, 3, and the last one is 4. Even though in the beginning it was an extra, that's just how it works out. So now you would slip stitch into that last chain. And this completes your foundation row and your first row. Now we're going to move on to the second row. Okay, for this second row, remember this little space we have here, because we're going to need that. So you're going to chain 2, turn your work, and in that slip stitch space that you created, which is actually right above it here. No, it's down here. So what you would do is do 3 double crochets in the same space. So go down here. One, two, three. Now this is the easy part. This is when you really don't have to count anymore per se, except for your double crochets. So from now on, the chain 2 that you did on the previous row is going to be on the opposite side of what it was. There's one there, there's one there, there's one there. It's at the end, and then there's one over here. So what you do now is just look for those spots, and you go into the open chain 2 space, and you slip stitch, and you chain up 2, 1, 2, and you do your 3 double crochets in that exact same space. So wrap, pull through once, wrap, pull through twice, wrap, pull through the other 2. That was your first one. Your second one. And your third double crochet. Okay, go into the next chain 2 space on the next shell, which is right here where my finger is, and you just do a slip stitch. Chain up 2, 1, 2, and then do your 3 double crochets in that same chain. One, two, and 3. Again, you repeat it. Go into this chain 2 space, do a slip stitch, chain 2, 1, 2, wrap, and do your 3 double crochets in that same chain 2 space from the previous row. 1, 2, 3, and here we're at the end, and you find the chain 2. Should be right here at the very end. It's going to be a little tight because it's at the end. To find it here. Right here. It's extremely hard to find, but it's there. You go into that space, do a slip stitch, and now we're ready for row 3, which you just keep repeating row 2 all the way to the length that you're comfortable with or want it to be. I'll do one more row and then I'll speed it up so that way we can get to where we would close this off and make it straight. Okay, so chain up 2, 1, 2, turn your work, and in that same chain 2 space from the previous row, do 3 double crochets. That's 1, 2, 3, go into the chain 2 space of the previous row on the very end there and do a slip stitch. Chain up 2, 1, 2, 3 double crochets in that same chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3. Again, look for the chain 2 space, do a slip stitch, chain up 2, 1, 2, wrap and do your 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Again, chain 2 space, slip stitch, chain 2, 3 double crochets in that same space. 1, 2, 3. And again, we're at the end. Find the chain 2 space at the end and slip stitch. Okay guys, I'm going to speed this up so we can get to the end and I can show you how to make this jagged top straight like the bottom. So that way you can finish off your blanket and do a border. Okay? Okay, so here we are at the end of my little swatch. And what we need to do is this goes down and these go down and you have like a V shape at the top. If you like that, you can keep it. If you do not, you can make it straight so that way you could do a border. This one is straight, so we're trying to get all these to match. So what you want to do to start out is do a normal beginning type of stitch. So what I mean by that is you just chain 2 like you normally would. Let me get some more string here. Okay, you turn your work like you normally would, and you go into that same chain 2 space where you just slip stitched, and you do 3 double crochets like normal. 1, 2, 3. Because what you're wanting to do is fill this gap. See how that's going to be straight now? Now what you do is you slip stitch into the next chain peak or space like you usually would also. Here's where it's different. Okay, so you want to try to fill this gap here. So what you want to do is chain 1. It gives you a little bit more space to work with. And then in between here, there's this little V-stitch right here, like a regular crochet looking stitch, but it's 2 strings. And it's right in between both of them. See, like here's one here. You got the little stitch in the center, and then here's your other peak. It's right in the center. So you want to go in there and you want to do 1 double crochet in that space in between the 2 peaks or the V's, like so. Now from what you want to do is carry the string, because this is already at a peak. You don't need to fill this gap. You don't want to add another box stitch here. So you would go into each one of these and you would just slip stitch. So you should do 1, 2, 3, and then you slip stitch into your chain 2. So there should be 4 slip stitches. So you go into the next stitch, slip stitch, it's 1, slip stitch, that's 2, slip stitch, that's 3, and your last one should be in the chain 2 space where you usually would slip stitch to start your next box. See? And then again, you would repeat this all the way to the end of the row, so that way your row is straight. When you go to, it has to relax a little bit, but when you go to put your border around it, it's going to be straight all the way across it. So again, here you would just chain 1, go in between, which would be this stitch right here. If I can get my finger there, this one right here. And you would just slip stitch, or I mean double crochet in there, sorry. So you do a double crochet, because that will fill the gap. And then you just slip stitch 1, 2, 3, and in the 4th chain as well. So slip stitch, slip stitch number 2, number 3, and then here is your number 4. Okay, again, chain 1. You have 1 more spot you have to fill right here where my fingernail is. That's where you would slip stitch, I mean do a double crochet. Okay, and then you just slip stitch the 4. So you slip stitch the 3 chains, which is 1, 2, ooh, I grabbed something else there, 3, and then you go into your chain 2, and you also slip stitch there. That's your last one. Now, let me move this out of the way. To end it, you really, I just usually just do 1 more like this, and then I pull this out, cut it. But this is what it would look like. So you have this straight edge that you started with, you have the bottom, the sides, and then you have your top straight edge. And it does look a little wonky, but like I said, it's because the yarn needs to, you know, relax and form into what it's supposed to be. But you can also put it on a board and stretch it. Some people do that to stretch out their work, to make it, you know, in the shape that it's supposed to be when they do granny squares. And then you just go around and do your edge for your border, and that's your blanket or pot holder or anything that you want to make out of it. And they call it the shell stitch because it kind of like goes in. See, like this side goes in, this side goes in. I don't know if you can kind of see that or not. And then the opposite, then they pop, other ones pop out the opposite way on either side. So it's a universal blanket. You can use it any side and it looks the same either side you look at it. But that's it for the tutorial on the box stitch, shell stitch, brick stitch. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And if you like this video or any of my other videos, please subscribe. Till next time, bye.